Welcome to the Period Besties Podcast with Stasha and Katie. Think about it as chatting with your best friends about all the TMI stuff you've never talked about before with two period coaches who've been helping hormones collectively for over 20 years now. I'm Stasha.
And I'm Katie, and we're pulling back the curtain on what it's like in the world of menstrual coaching. From puberty to menopause and everything in between, we're here to show you how period coaching can save the day. We'll share practical tips and information you can put to immediate use to improve your hormones and happiness.
We're removing the mystery, ending the taboo, and shining a light on just how powerful period coaching can be.
So whether you need period coaching or are considering becoming a period coach yourself, these episodes are going to help you. We'll share stories, coach live on air, and bring smart, savvy guests to share their wisdom too. Let's start today's episode.
Hello, welcome back to the Period Besties Podcast. Today, Katie and I are going to give you a little rundown of how working with your cycle can be such a huge asset, partially in celebration because my new book, Bloody Brilliant Business, is coming out. And we thought it would be fun to give you all some tips and tricks. So in the next few weeks, we're going to dive into your follicular phase and working and business and your ovulation phase and how you can work and run your business. And we'll go through the phases. We'll have some interviews with some fantastic people who also do business in flow. And in fact, one of them is a period coaching school graduate who she does the back end stuff. She helps people organize and whatnot. And she's constantly coaching her female business owners on running their businesses better with their cycles and turning it into an asset instead of a liability. So I think it's going to be a fun one. And I think it's going to be a fun few weeks. It'll be a little bit different from the health perspective, except when you think about the fact that when you are stressed out, when you're sitting there staring at a blank screen, when you're in the office just frustrated, that all negatively affects your reproductive hormones, right? It spikes your cortisol, it spikes your stress hormones, and then your body pulls from your reproductive hormones, steals your progesterone to turn it into cortisol instead. So we end up with a bigger hormonal imbalance when we're literally not working with our flow. So it is still a hormonal balance education.
I think this is like practical real life. How do I actually take my cycle and manage it in a way that's effective versus so many of us are like, oh, I'm PMSing, my period's coming. And we get into our heads about whatever that message is or however we're feeling versus how do I use this for my power and being in my body versus feeling like all these things are happening to me. Like, how can I actually use this for myself? There was this really cool, and I cannot remember the name of the company. So if it's your company, let us know. But I saw this thing a few weeks ago on Instagram where people were in an office working and everybody had printed out where they were on their cycle. And they're like, one of them was like, period's coming in 3 days, give me chocolate. Someone else was in deep luteal and she had headphones on. Don't bother me, I'm irritable today. And everyone in the office, they just showed the women. So I don't know what was printed on the men's chairs, but all the women in the office had where they were. And somebody was like, I'm in ovulation. Come chat with me. I want to talk to all of you. I'm super social today. And it's so genius because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. When you are actually aware of where you are and you can let yourself know first and then let other people know, then I can't even imagine how more peaceful and at ease it would be to just work. I just remember working back in the day in corporate and being cold all the time. For whatever reason, they always put me underneath the vent. I always had a space heater, blankets. I had fingerless gloves. I was always freezing. And There were some days when I just had my headphones on and I was just like trying to work and people would interrupt me every second. And I just remember that deep luteal and just never being able to get back. Like once I was out of it, I could not focus. It would take me another 20, 30 minutes to get refocused. Someone else would come over, talk to me. So I was like, this is genius. This would have worked for me way back in the day. And now, because I know all this information, it works for me. I don't question myself as much. Like, Katie, why is your brain not working? Why can't you write an email today? I'm just like, oh, my period's coming tomorrow. I'm not even going to attempt unless I get some sort of endorphin rush.
Yeah, first of all, there's studies that were based off of the things that you mentioned. The temperature in offices are put there for men. Men have a different resting temperature than women. So it's really interesting to see how all of that works. I saw that video too. I thought it was hilarious. I think it's an all women office. I think it was a smaller nonprofit, and I think it was all women. You can have that little bit of fun there. But yeah, can you just, even if you can't have the conversation in the office or any of that stuff, being able to just let yourself off the hook a bit. Can you just imagine the less amount of stress you would have, even if you can't do anything about it, but just to go, oh, I know why this isn't working today. And I will do my best to look busy as much as I can, but I'm going to let myself off the hook instead of beating myself up as to why I can't get this done or why this is so hard or I'm on the struggle bus and I don't know why. This is why. And then on the flip side of the coin, I know where I am in my cycle. I know when I'm in a really productive phase, I'm going to just get it knocked out. I find that when I'm in that really productive space, I don't want to be interrupted. I don't want to be in that chatty spot. I would rather be in that chatty in deep luteal when my brain's not working and getting work done isn't going to happen. Come over and tell me all the good gossip then. But when I'm in ovulation, like headphones, let me just laser focus and knock out a ton of work. When I was in Australia, I met with the management of Ridge's hotel chain, which is an enormous hotel chain in Australia. Very beautiful hotels. I got to stay in a few. They were fantastic. Highly recommend. I talked to them and we talked about what the management looks like. And when you're doing employee assessments and having to take things into account, and instead of looking at the numbers from day to day and trying to beat yesterday's goal, looking at things from month to month, especially for the female employees, because they don't work in the same ways, and just shifting their perspective. And all of these men in the room going, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. I did not know that. Oh, that makes so much more sense. And several of the men that were there were already making changes in the offices, bringing in books, having libraries, having quiet areas for the employees to take like a coffee break and just get away from everybody because they know it's such a forward-facing business. So they were already moving forward progressively to make it a better situation for their employees. But then giving them this other perspective, they were really just thrilled about it. And I'd love to see more companies do that.
I love that. I think it's so genius because, first of all of us are unique. We all worked very differently. Like even what you just mentioned, when you're in deep luteal, you want to be talking more. When I'm in deep luteal, I'm like, don't come near me. I don't want anything to do with anybody, which is funny because, when I'm trying to even make plans with work, I look ahead and sometimes there's things out of my control where I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to talk. Last cycle, I was just like, okay, Katie, you're going to have to do some jumping jacks before you get on this Zoom because you are so low right now. You just need that energy. So it's just the awareness, I think, but the awareness from a boss, like as you're saying this, and I'm rethinking my stress levels when I was in corporate. And if I had been able to have these conversations or even this awareness of myself, but even if my boss and like everyone else had that awareness, the stress level would be so much lower because I wouldn't have had the expectations of performing the same every day. That was something that I always got caught up in because I really wasn't connected yet to my cycle. And I was always in my head, why can't I do what I did 3 days ago? Why is my brain like, and I would always kind of blame that on myself. And then if your boss is not engaged and doesn't understand either. So I can see this whole ripple effect of the management being aware and how that changes productivity and performance. I bet it goes way up for everybody involved.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. I know for a fact, working with business owners and their cycles and my business and my cycle, that as soon as I had the freedom to rearrange what tasks I was doing to go with my cycle, my productivity went through the roof and things got done in a much better way. And I had early days, a few clients. One was a lawyer, so she got to set some things up for herself, how she wanted them. One was the CEO for a nonprofit, and she also was able to do some manipulation of her schedule. So, depending on where you're employed, there's sometimes you can do a little manipulation. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do. It just depends on the job. But especially for people that have their own businesses and can really put their calendar and their planning and their schedule together with their cycles over years now, a decade now, I have seen it work over and over and over and over again to increase their productivity and make things just easier and smoother and get a lot more done in a lot less time, because they're using those powers in those phases to make things really happen. And because I've spoken in Australia so many times, there's a little bit of a running joke in there that you can tell when Stasha's been in your town, because people are like, oh no, I'm scheduling that for ovulation. And they're like, oh, Stasha was here, wasn't she?
I love it. Wait, before we go deeper, can you share more about your book?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited for this. It's been years in the making. So it is quite literally the handbook that you're going to keep on your desk, and you're going to highlight it and dog ear and paperclip, and they're going to be beat up. I can't wait because it's step by step. So everything, back-end organization, setting up a business, running a launch, running a webinar, running a summit, doing your email newsletters, everything from beginners to writing a book, doing a Kickstarter or crowdfunding, like advanced things, is in there, and it's all written out step by step. And then it's broken down into cycles. So you'll have a big chunky one like summits, right? They take 6 months to put together. So it's broken down month 1, menstrual, luteal, every phase, right? Month 2, what tasks are you going to be doing in each phase of the cycle? Month 3. So it's really broken down. It's things that are really quick and easy. We break it down into, you could do this in this phase, this and that phase. So it's really step by step. And then you get a ton of spreadsheets and worksheets and done for yous and all these sorts of things that I've made for period coaching students over the years. Put on a bonus page to give people who buy the book as a little extra bonus. So you get a lot of the behind the scenes period coaching business stuff, not the menstrual coaching stuff, but the business side of things. We put in like the money and flow spreadsheet, tracking your money with your cycle spreadsheet, and all sorts of fun little goodies. Yeah.
It's super interesting because I bet when you look at your bank account, depending on what phase you're in, you have a very different reaction.
Yes. I have a money mindset in this phase weekly calendar alert so that I check in on how I'm feeling about money today and where am I in my cycle, so that I can, sometimes it's you're in luteal. Of course you feel like the sky is falling. Okay. So I can have that little conscious conversation with myself, because money challenges doesn't change. They just get bigger or smaller depending on how things are going. So yeah, it's really helpful. There's a chapter on mindset and motivation. There's a chapter on money and manifesting in there as well. So we really dive into all those goodies. And then there's also a section on if you're not cycling. So if you're in menopause or medical menopause, if you're PCOS and have a really crazy cycle, just all sorts of variations, but you still feel like you need flow, like that feminine flow is your anchor. You feel really identified with that. There's a way to use the book as well. So depending on if you have a menstrual cycle or not, you can still use the book.
And even if you don't have a business, I see the money and flow, like even just thinking about work projects, because a lot of projects you get in January and they're due in November, whatever, like long-term projects, like I can see how that would totally be relatable and helpful for people that are also trying to do more short and or long-term projects and want to be more in flow. Like that's really
Yeah.
so
And
I mean, I've learned so much from you over the years. I'm excited to.
there's a chapter called How to Show Up in Every Phase. So even if you're working in corporate, but you have to do presentations, there's the how do you do it in every single phase, whether it's the best phase for it or not. Sometimes you just have to do it anyway. And this is true even when you're on your own business, right? Like you could say, I'm going to host a live summit in 6 months. And then your period just was short 1 week or is a little extra long. And now you have your period during your live summit. So sometimes you have to show up whether you like it or not. And even if you try, you still may end up having to do something when it's not that ideal place in your cycle. But how do you do it then? And this is where me having to be a coach on stage for a 3-day retreat, live retreat. We had 500 to 600 people in the audience every day. And it was the day before my period, day 1 of my period, day 2 of my period, where I had no sleep, no downtime, was constantly on, like doing 15-minute laser coaching sessions with people. And then I was on stage doing live coaching for the whole audience. And then back to, it was just crazy. And I learned a lot in how to show up and how to be on in that space, especially with endometriosis, especially tell you what, number 1 tip, get help, ask for help. But yeah, there's something for everybody, no matter where you are or what you're doing, where it can help you.
That's awesome. So where can people buy this book?
I'm going to have the website in the show notes. So it's on periodcoachingschool.com, but there'll be a / I think it's BBBB. I have to look, but it'll be in the show notes.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I'm excited. I have your other book. It was great. I'm just super excited about this. And I love the cover you just showed me last week. I'm so excited about the cover. I love it. All of it. It's great.
I hope it will be very useful for people. And I hope it will end up getting just beaten and battered, full of underlines and highlights and really used. But this is where I'm looking forward to being able to do these podcast episodes where we can really dive into each of the phases and see how it's that reprogramming from hindrance to asset.
Yes.
From inconvenience to convenience, just making that mindset shift.
Yeah. And everyone that's listening right now too, if you have questions about each phase and how you are currently showing up and how you would prefer to show up and are looking for advice, email us, DM us. Like we would love to be able to really hone in on that and share feedback with you too about each phase. Or if you're like, okay, I've noticed in this phase, like this happening constantly, my brain not working, like how do I get my brain to be on even if I'm not on? I don't know, I'm making it up, but that's what I think about often. I'm like, okay, how do I get my brain to work even though my brain's not working?
Yeah.
Like ask these questions. I think that would be really fun feedback.
Yeah, I love it. I personally, I love working with the clients that have endometriosis and a business, or introverted and a business, because those are my soulmates. Like having 2 puzzles to work out at a time. Like you have the business puzzle to work out and you have the hormonal.
Yeah.
So it's fun for me. I quite like those conversations. And for people with endometriosis, sometimes having your own business is the only way you can really make money. I couldn't hold down a job. You're constantly getting fired for being sick.
Yeah.
Much. So for people with endometriosis, a lot of times having your own business is your way of taking back your ownership and your power and that kind of thing. So I love helping endo clients get their businesses up and running and that kind of thing. So I love a good puzzle. And during these 4 weeks, we'll do a book giveaway. So some lucky person can win a copy of the book. We'll have details in the following episodes, but just so you know, somebody can win a copy out there. So do tune in. Questions, comments, things that we can chat. We'll do a Q&A episode if we get enough questions. We'd love to hear from you. What's your situation? What's going on for you? What could you get help or advice with? We'd love to hear. So, and stay tuned for announcements on the book giveaway.
Yeah. And we're both on day 19 right now. So we're probably going to be recording in Luteal. So that will be really fun. And you can see us in action, in flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Flow. Yeah, 100%. So it'll be fun. And yeah, so I look forward to bringing these all to you. I look forward to having this fun conversation. I have business coached multiple thousands of people. So I love getting money into the hands of women. I love getting women's businesses up and running, whether it's just something you do on the side or it becomes a full-time thing or it's a part-time thing, but it makes full-time money, right? So I love being able to get more money in the hands of women. And I think these podcast episodes are going to help people get up and running and feel more confident and ready to do it.
Same. I'm super excited. So see you next week, besties. And again, write in, let us know, because we would love to share feedback with you and help you all. So see you in the next episode.
Yay. Bye for
A big shout out and thank you to our sponsors for today's episode, Period Coaching School and Katie Bresek Wellness.
Thanks to you, our favorite bestie, for listening to the Period Besties podcast, where no topic is TMI. And of course, share this episode with your besties.
Remember to leave us a 5-star review, nothing less than the best for us besties, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
You can follow us on Instagram at Stasha Washburn and at Katie Bresek, or email us at periodbestiespodcast@gmail.com.
Check out more about us at katiebresek.com and periodcoachingschool.com. And of course, check the show notes for free goodies and extras that support this episode.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye for now, besties.